This is Danny Flexent here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined once again by Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren. Frank, after the news on Friday night that you guys have won the bids for Tyson Fury against Dillian Whyte, I'm assuming you've had worse weekends. Did you celebrate at all?
Yeah, we had a few drinks in the office afterwards, and that was it. And the weekend was fairly quiet. I went to see one of my grandsons play football, the usual sort of stuff, and yesterday did nothing. There was no football. No, there was football. There was the African nations football, but there was no Premiership, so it's a little bit dull. But anyway, other than that, nice weekend, restful, and we're back in the swing today, making our preparations for the big fight.
Have you spoken to Tyson at all since the news came out? And if so, what was his reaction?
Well, I spoke to him immediately within a minute of the bid, of our bid being. Well, once they opened up Matchroom's bid, we knew we won it. So I just called him and said we're all on, and he was highly delighted. He's been sort of he's not had one fight in nearly 2 years, and he just wants to get into the ring. So he was highly delighted with the fact that we, our team won. And he's looking forward to the fight.
Now, on the bids itself, were you expecting their bid to be not higher than yours, but higher than it was?
I don't know. What I was concerned with, some left field thing came in, some lunatic came in and bid something stupid.
Or something like that.
Well, there was a few names floating around of people who were trying to put bids in. You knew that they were not, they would not be able to deliver, and that would delay things. Thankfully, that didn't happen. We had a conversation about half an hour before the bids. We were still trying to negotiate. Half hour before that, and we was talking to what's his name, Ben Shalom, and Dillian Whyte's lawyer, Jeff Bence, speaking to both of them, and they were trying to put something together, but it didn't work out, and it was a little bit too late by then. So we said we're going ahead with our bid and did what we had to do, which is good for Dillian Whyte. I mean, he gets a touch out of this, doesn't he? It's a big. I mean, the fact we won the purse bid means that the worst case he gets $2 million more than Matchroom had put in.
And there's been some speculation that Matchroom, Eddie Hearn specifically, talked up his bid quite a lot to push you guys to bid even more. Do you think there's any truth in that, or is that just kind of face-saving type stuff?
You got reading into it how you like. We already determined how much we were going to bid for the fight, so it's irrelevant. I don't think he ever felt that he could win it. It's a funny thing when it comes to these real big ones, we're normally successful.
Now, the WBC have said there's 10% of the total purse been taken aside as a winner's bonus, if you like, which they've done in previous times, and then 80-20 for the rest in favour of Tyson, as you negotiated for. But Dillian Whyte's still in arbitration with the WBC. Could that still change the purse splits?
Not from our perspective, definitely not. I don't even know what their case is about, to be quite honest, and that's their case. It's nothing to do with us, and we submitted our bid based upon the 80-20 split, and that's what we've done, and that's what we did.
And have you heard from the other side at all, either Dillian Whyte's team or Matchroom, even though they're not officially involved? I know they were advising Whyte at some point. Have you heard from anyone from that side?
Yeah, well, from Dillian's side is his lawyer Jeff Bence, and it was Shalom. They were the people representing it, nothing to do with Matchroom.
No, but I mean, since the bids, have you spoken to them? Is Whyte happy, etc.?
I should think he should be over the moon. If he fancies the job and wins the fight, he could be getting just under $12 million. It's a bit of a day at the races, isn't it? So why should he be unhappy? I'm quite sure he's happy, and also from his perspective, he's got something to aim for now. The same as Tyson, there'll be a date to be announced next week, and the venue, and we can move from there. And I'm hoping there's not going to be any problems, and we're all going to work professionally together to make the event the success it should be.
Well, as you kind of alluded to there, I'm sure you've seen there's been a bit of speculation about how much Whyte will participate in selling the fight now that it's going to be, promoted by you guys on BT Sport. Would you foresee any issues, turning up at a press conference with earphones on or not turning up at all?
Well, as long as he turns up, I don't care what he's got on. Come naked for all I care. It's just as long as he participates. And that's it. That's what we're paid for. We're not asking him to do anything for nothing. That's part of the job. That's what you get paid for. Of course, we want him to work, and I'm sure it's better for him. At the end of the day, the more people who see him fight, the better it is for him. Why wouldn't he help? I mean, I've been involved over the years where we've had sort of rivalries, and and we've been in those situations, and we always work together to make it work, because that's good for us, it's good for him, and it's good for boxing and for the fans.
Now, you talked about date and venue. It's not confirmed yet, but you must have kind of something in mind to have made the budget for your bid in the first place. What kind of time are we looking at? And obviously in the UK, but outdoor, indoor?
Of course I had something in mind when I bid for it, and you'll find out next week. The bottom line of it all is it'll be sometime in April.
And there's been people that have talked about potential other deals coming up before the purse bids. It was extended a number of times. So presumably there was some interest on both sides about different options in terms of step-asides and potentially an undisputed fight. I know that was what you were focusing on at one point. What was kind of the key deciding factor for that not happening in the end?
Anthony Joshua asked him for an additional $5 million to step aside. And Tyson said enough is enough, and that was the end of it.
So
that was the bottom line of it.
So he was offered $15 million, that's what was reported, and then he asked for 20. Is that what we're saying?
I'm saying he asked for an extra 5. That's what I'm saying. But you know what? It's all irrelevant. What is important now is what we're doing, and what we're doing right this moment is focusing on this fight and getting this fight on. This is reality. This is where we are. This is what we, as I say, what we bid for, and it paves the way for a unification match for the winner. I don't know, they put a Joshua and Usyk fight on, the rematch. The winner of that fights the winner of our one, and that's a fantastic fight for everybody to look forward to.
Now, you won the bids with a record-breaking amount for a title fight. People were not surprised that you won them, but surprised at how high the bids went on both sides. How do you now make it pay from a commercial perspective? You know, I haven't done my kind of back of a fag packet calculations. You've been doing this for decades, but how do you make it pay? How do you make the most of the event in terms of the profits?
Well, we'll do that from ticket sales, from TV pay-per-view, TV sales around the world, sponsorship, all the ancillary rights that go with it, merchandising, all that's been taken into consideration. And that's how we determined how much we were going to bid for the fight. And we feel that it's going to be it is a big fight, and we feel it's going to be a great success, and that reflects in the amount of money that the guys are earning, and I believe that we'll make some money out of it too.
And TV-wise, is it BT Sport box office exclusively here and ESPN pay-per-view exclusively in the States?
That's what it is, yeah.
That's pretty good. ESPN pay-per-view in the States for an all-British world heavyweight title fight.
Well, it's a big fight, and you've got to realise that, you know, Tyson's had his last, how many fights in the States now, was it? 5. He's had his last 5 fights there, so yeah, so it's not like they don't know who he is. He's probably more popular out there than any of the other, than certainly wasn't more than Deontay Wilder, and he's one of the top drawers out there. So there's a lot of interest in his fight. You know, it's the first time he's fought for nearly 4 years in the UK time this comes round. So again, there's going to be a lot of anticipation from the fans here to see him in action. He's never defended his title in this country, so I think it's going to be a really good event, and I think it's going to be well received everywhere. You know, if Dillian, and also from Dillian's perspective, he's talked a good fight up to us now, and you know he's a competitor, and you know he comes to fight. So I think you're going to get something exciting on the night, and anything can happen in heavyweight boxing. You know, I fancy Tyson big time, but anything can happen. One punch can change the dynamic of a fight, and he can punch, and so can Tyson, by the way. So it's going to be an exciting fight, I think.
Do you kind of still, at this stage of your career, get excited when you get a victory like this? Because it's not a fighter winning a title or anything like that, but it's winning a purse bid for a fight, and everyone was talking it up, who's going to win the bids. Kind of seems like a statement.
Well, it was. We knew he was going to win the bid. I mean, that's how it was very emphatic that we were going to win this purse bid. And we worked hard to make it happen, and that's what did happen. And yeah, of course it's exciting. I mean, the boxing business, I've been doing this for a long, long time, and we sat down and worked our numbers out. We worked out what they could contribute from the States with Bob Arum, and that's how we justified our bid. And obviously, The only other bidder was Matchroom, and obviously they're involved with DAZN, and they've looked at their numbers in the States and the UK, and they put a bid in what they felt that they could afford. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a good lead up to it, and I think there's probably be a few bumps in the road on the way, but as long as we get it over the line, as long as we get, on the date we announce, as long as that fight takes place, then everybody's going to be happy. And it's also that massive carrot of the unification bout. The winner will definitely fight for unification. So it's exciting times for the heavyweight division, and Britain has 3 parts of that pie. So three portions of that are Brits, and we've got Usyk being the other one. So who knows? I'd prefer it to be an all-British final at the end, but we'll see what happens.
Now, you're Tyson's exclusive UK promoter.
So get it right. Bob Arum is Tyson's American promoter. We are his exclusive promoters to the rest of the world.
Outside the US.
Yeah.
Apologies. But kind of leads to the question, how involved, if at all, will Bob be in the promotion of this fight?
He'll be involved in it. Of course he'll be involved in it. He'll come over for it, and then I want him to come over for the press conference, He works with us. We work together, so I'm delighted that Bob's involved. I mean, these 2 old gits working there, Statler and Hilton, we'll be flying, That's what we'll be, mate.
He's got a few years on you, Frank, to be fair, but
well, he has. I tell you, he gets around more than I do, though. That's for sure. I like his air miles.
I think he has some chemical assistance in that regard. But that's supposed to relax you, isn't it? I don't know.
Why am I not doing that?
That's the headline there. Frank Warren asked for weed during the interview.
No, I asked to go away. My age, I can't hold it anymore.
Will there be any kind of top-ranked talent, US talent on the undercard you foresee?
Yeah, we haven't worked out the undercard yet. Yeah, I'm hoping his heavyweight is going to come over and spar with Tyson. He may probably be on the
Jared Anderson.
Yeah, so Brits will get a chance to look at him, and I think he'll work out with Tyson on the preparation.
And what else can we expect to see from the undercard from a UK perspective? Who are you kind of hand-picked?
We haven't even got round to that yet. I mean, the thing is to get the main event, and the main event sells the whole thing. And the undercard on this show is great for the fighters who'll be on there, but this is all about the main event.
And does that mean we shouldn't expect kind of too many star names on the undercard? Because as you said, the main event sells the show.
Decided. I mean, our star names are all going to be busy in the next couple of months. Daniel Dubois, I expect the WBA to announce today or tomorrow that Bryant has to defend against him. So he's going to be fighting for that WBA title, which should give him then the mandatory position if he beats Bryant. We've obviously got Zach Parker. The WBO have announced that he's got to have an interim fight against Andrade, so we're looking forward to that. Big Joe Joyce, he'll be back in action. Unfortunately, he broke his wrist. He'd been out before, so he's going to be out late April, early May. So we've got some good things happening, but they're all separate fights in their own right. They won't be on that show.
Just going back to the heavyweights for a minute, you talked about kind of a final to vie for the undisputed crown eventually. Who do you expect to be on the other side of the final from Tyson? Who do you expect to come out on top if the rematch happens between Joshua and Usyk?
Based off of what I see in the last fight, I fancy Usyk. He's a trainer at the end, or he said through the interpreter, his trainer told him not to try and, not to expose himself, just outbox him. Well, he nearly stopped him by outboxing him. He was gone in the last round. And I would think that he's going to get more out of it than AJ is. And AJ's got he didn't use his physical attributes last time. He allowed the smaller guy to get in, get underneath his jab. I mean, and he was beating him on the outside. Which you think the bigger guy would be out jabbing him, but he didn't. And the thing is, with Usyk now, he's got a bit more time to be settled in at the heavyweight division. So he's going to feel pretty confident. I'm sure he feels he's got AJ's number. AJ's obviously very dangerous. Can he outbox him? I don't think so. I mean, I looked at him. When have I looked at him where he's actually gone out and boxed someone? Probably when he had the rematch with Andy Ruiz, and Andy Ruiz came in like he'd been, as I say, training in a sausage factory. He was huge. He was heavy, but he fought on the back foot with Ruiz. I don't think he can do that with with Usyk, because I think the difference between Ruiz and Usyk is a true professional. He ain't going to come in overweight. He's not going to be taking anything for granted. And if Joshua goes on the back foot against Usyk, then you've got to fancy Usyk. You know, you've got to give him, you know, fancy him quite big. I would anyway, because Josh, what he has to do, Joshua, to beat him is impose himself, which he didn't do in the first fight. He used his physical attributes, his jab, his size, his power, and he didn't do that. And can he do it next time? That's going to be the interesting thing. Can he do it? And is he going to have a new trainer? I don't know what he's going to do. Based upon the last fight, he needs a new trainer.
Now let's talk about some of the other fighters you mentioned. Daniel Dubois, soon hopefully to be made mandatory for the WBA regular belt against Trevor Bryan. They've had a bit of back and forth last night and this morning on social media. How do you kind of see that fight panning out? And ultimately, do you see Daniel and Tyson Fury on a collision course?
Well, look, the thing is with Daniel, you know, we want to keep him busy, but we've had to sort of stop now because he's in that spot, that number one spot. So giving him a fight in between, he was going to fight in America, but he didn't fight there for anyway, I won't go into the reason he didn't fight there, but now he's in a position where we can't be putting fights in between, otherwise he's going to lose that mandatory slot. All that matters is the fight against Bryan, and how do I expect it to end? I fancy him. I won't put him in otherwise. I fancy he's got the beast in a Bryan. And if he does that, he's the official number one. And if all these things that we've talked about happen, there's a unification fight, then whoever comes out as a unified champion has got to make a decision who he's going to defend against, because he'll be called to defend those 4 belts, who he's going to defend against, which includes also, by the way, Joe Joyce as the WBO mandatory. So they're going to have to make some choices. Now, will the guy who's got all the belts, the eventual winner, will he hold on to them? Will he vacate some of them? Whatever happens, both of them are in good positions. Daniel's in a good position, and so is Joe. So from Queensberry perspective, we've got our guys and manoeuvred our guys and worked very hard to get them where they're at now. They've now got to go and do the business. And you can think of all those great fights that can come as a result of that. You know, maybe Daniel does fight Tyson. Maybe Joe fights Tyson. Maybe they fight each other. Maybe they fight other guys. But whatever happens, there's a group of fights there that can be made. And even if, and I think Tyson will come out on top, but even if the others come out on top, they've got to fight one of those guys. But I just feel that Tyson, in my opinion, he's head and shoulders above the heavyweights at the moment. He's the number one in the world. And I think he's the number one heavyweight of his generation. I really do believe that. So whatever happens, they're all in a good position. And whatever happens, the fans are going to get some great fights.
You mentioned Joe Joyce there, the WBO mandatory. When can we expect to see him back in action?
Well, he had a broken wrist. He broke his wrist. So we've waited for that to heal. I understand he can start punching sometime this month. Hopefully, you know, it heals and he doesn't get any problems. And based upon that, he'll be out late April, early May. Anthony
Yarde, will he fight for the WBO title in his next fight? Is that likely, or will he have one in between?
Well, that's what we want to happen. But at the moment, Joe Smith and his team are looking for this unification fight. If they get the unification fight on, then the winner will have to defend against Anthony. If they can't get it on, and fingers crossed they can't, then Joe Smith will have to have his mandatory against Anthony.
And Zach Parker, big night coming up for him, I believe, soon in Derby. That was the plan anyway, but now he's been nominated for the WBO interim belt against Demetrius Andrade. What does that mean now? Does it go to purse bids? Do you still want it in Derby? What happens?
Well, I want him to fight in Derby, but because of the announcement, we've got to sort of put the plans on hold. We've got this week to negotiate with Matchroom, who represent Andrade, see if we can come to an arrangement. If we can't, it'll go to purse bids.
Good stuff. Now, something I do want to ask you about, and I don't know how much you'll be able to say about this or how much we'll be able to use, but there's been loads and loads of speculation for a few months now that DAZN are closing in, apparently, on purchasing BT Sport. most people around it are staying quite close-lipped. I guess it's more of a hypothetical question that if that does happen, how, if at all, would it affect you and your business?
Well, it won't affect us at all. We have the exclusive right to promote boxing on BT. We also have the exclusive right for any pay-per-view boxing on BT. And that's where it is. So even if these things were to move forward, they would have to discuss with us, but they can't do any boxing on BT or whoever if BT were to do a deal with someone without our consent.
So hypothetically, you promote boxing on BT exclusively. Matchroom promote boxing exclusively on DAZN. DAZN and BT are owned by the same company, perhaps in the future. Does that make fights between the two camps easier to make?
No, I don't think they're never easy to make. No, I wouldn't read too much into that. No, all it means is that we have the exclusive rights. No one else, no Matchroom, no one else, just us.